Very, very good evening. All of those who are sitting in the auditorium, we probably patiently waiting for something else. But yes, I think it's a great idea to come together. The possibility of ideas getting exchanged and credible actions leading to business and profits is very much there. So I probably chose a bit different topic than what you are probably used to. That's mostly what can be the additional business avenues for the NBFCs. So mostly what common people like us are used to onto what NBFC does is essentially into taking loans or taking deposits, giving loans to whichever purpose, whichever activity, whichever amount, and then completing the cycle of the loan recovery and loan collection. So that seems to be the basic understanding which a common person who is not an expert into banking and finance can have. That NBFCs has always been a very important element of economic development, of financial empowerment, and say in case of Maharashtra, as we had a very important element of cooperative banks or the cooperative credit societies. In a sense, earlier were something similar to what NBFCs are doing now. But now, of course, the initial era of cooperative credit societies and banks is probably shifting. And as we are seeing more and more formalization of economy, as we are seeing more and more new products coming, new technology getting integrated into this basic function of financial transactions, we feel that the dream of having a $5 trillion economy for India in, say, next maybe 5 years, a $10 trillion economy in next 15 years. So this would only be possible if we would be having a very strong and robust and dependable financial systems. And therefore, the inherent flexibility which NBFCs can have despite all the challenges, we feel that the NBFCs have a great role to play into the broader national goals of a $5 trillion economy, and probably also increasing the per capita income from currently $2,500 to that of at least $15,000. So what we are looking at is essentially a quantum jump into the financial activities of the country. Currently, we are only $2,500 per capita income per year. That's what called as lower income countries. And what we are aiming at, maybe the next generation, maybe next 20 years or 25 years, we will be aiming for a $15,000 per capita income in US dollars per capita income. So that's going to be a huge jump. And therefore, the inefficiencies that exist in any transactions will have to be removed. And therefore, of course, before coming here, I visited the stalls and I found the fintech industry extremely vibrant. And I have all the best wishes to them. And thus, again, the reason I felt I must come here, of course, Raviji is our old friend, so we have worked together, collaborated together. But despite that, I felt the NBFCs can be better utilized into the current challenges of next 20 years they would be having. So the topic I had, probably this is more to do with the public policy domain, which is called as Sustainable Development Goals. I'm sure all of us might have heard of this. This is a current buzzword in any international conference or any global discussions. You would find that SDG is the buzzword. So what is SDG? SDG is Sustainable Development Goal. When was it done? It was done in 2015 at New York, September. As you know, September is a month of all international discussions in New York and in United Nations. So this was done. SDGs was agreed together by almost 190 countries of accepting this as a valid goal and thereby enhancing and aligning the national policies, the state policies, the city policies, and of course the financial allocation to ensure that SDGs are achieved. The SDGs is almost 17 goals as we call them. But there are 169 indicators that are extremely quantitative specific. It is not a generalized philosophical statement that let's have everyone be without, maybe everyone should be without any misery or sorrow. No, it's very specific. And this quantification of goals, the benchmark that we have to reach till 2030. Where the 2030 is the date you must have heard, which has to be achieved, and there are 169 targets. Now it's a very long list. I would encourage and recommend you all to go to the United Nations website of SDGs, and also the app is also available. Probably you could do that. And I would urge to the NBFC community to please examine as to, given your current model of doing business of profit, of course you have to make profits, where can we find any convergence between achieving the SDGs and your banking operation. I'm sure there would be some convergences, there will be some commonalities in which you can do your good business and also help the achievement of SDGs. So just to briefly tell you, first of the SDGs which probably could make sense to you is that of financial inclusion. Of course, it is more to do with the JAM trilogy as we talk. It's more to do with each and everyone having a bank account to start with, having a credible credit score, and also access to various financial products like probably having loans and short loans and many other things. So the traditional way of doing financial transactions to urban and rural India now requires some quantum jumps. It's a traditional model that we are doing for so long. And I know this insurance is not the focus here, but coming up with an idea which is innovative, which sustains the basic logic of financial sanity, has changed the world. Technology, yes, but before technology, it is finance which has changed the world. And therefore, I see this as an opportunity also, and request to make to all of you that when we are talking of financial inclusion, let me tell you, financial inclusion is the most strong business because I was earlier working as the state nodal for the urban poverty alleviation program. And then we had this Mahila Bachat Gad, as you must have heard, women microfinance groups. The rate of return of microfinance group is stupendous. It's probably beyond 95% or maybe 97%. So the urge would be, within the convergence of your regular business model and this SDG goals, I'm sure we can have a lot of synergy. And one of that element which I can think of immediately is probably financial inclusion. Second, of course, is the support to renewable energy and clean technology. As we know, some of our friends must have come from Delhi, some of our friends must come from other places in the Great Indian Plains, as we say. And the air quality is always an issue that we think it's just not in the month of November. It's all year long. But then this is again an opportunity. I know, can NBFCs help green technology? Can NBFCs help the renewable energy to support it? Well, yes, of course, banking industry is there. They will be having many such products. But if there are any regulatory limitations to the NBFCs to engage with clean technology, to consider the element of risk that might exist for doing business into clean technologies, I believe there is sufficient channels open for you to raise your concerns and also to get them redressed. So second, as you know, SDG 13, SDG 7, these are the numbers probably you might keep on hearing in many such events, but you will be having SDG 7 and SDG 13, which talks of supporting financially the renewable energy and the clean technology industry. And if of course, you are more erudite than me in this sector, you'll be surprised at the amount of international understanding and cooperations which are happening in financing these green technologies. If I'm not mistaken, I remember reading one of the posts that I think the Bajaj NBFC probably entered into some IMF, an arrangement with IMF for the support, and probably they are entering into helping with green technology in India. So third, of course, importantly, I feel you already must be doing business regularly, but it is financing the MSMEs, the medium and small enterprises, and also to an extent, if feasible, the micro enterprises and even the street vendors. You would be surprised that during COVID times, you must have probably seen, or you may probably still remember what happened 3 years back when when COVID hit us. And the situation on the streets and the street vendors. So even helping the micro, small, medium and street vendors, and even the women self-help groups is a sufficiently strong financial opportunity for us to engage with. And again, I would be requesting you to please consider what new business models can be developed for otherwise unserviced sector, because of course there's the women self-help groups and the street vendors and the micro enterprises may not get that kind of support, but I can assure you whatever little exposure I have with them, that this is an extremely good market for you. It is just not, we will go beyond the charity and beyond the goodness and beyond the holier than thou mental framework. Let's move out of it. Let's talk money. Let's talk business. And this sector is a sufficiently strong sector and which can give you good business and good money. So I will definitely encourage that. Fourth would be SDG 9 and SDG 11. SDG 9 is supposed to be regarding sustainable infrastructure and of course cities, which is one of the job that I'm doing right now. So we have got around 400 cities in Maharashtra and maybe 5,000 cities in India. The need of financing to them is probably beyond anybody's capacity. I don't know if the banking industry is really willing to invest into city infrastructure at all in the first place. And if at all there, then if there are any regulatory limitations, whichever time I have interacted with the banking industry, they have told me that there is a circular from the RBI which prohibits banks to do business with cities and municipalities like BMC. The MCGM is probably having ₹1 trillion in their kitty. And if the banking industry is finding limitation for doing business, I can only pity them. I'm sorry. So these are the new sectors which I feel flexible, dynamic and adaptable ecosystem, financial ecosystem like the NBFCs can think whatever support that is required. Of course, the code of conduct is still there, even if the voting has been done. So there are limitations on me, but still I can generally share that whatever may be the combination, the willingness of the government to be professional with professionals is increasing. And please don't get surprised if people start visiting your offices from government asking what is to be done. I am sure that will happen very soon. So this was another SDG on cities and infrastructure, and affordable housing is also a big market which probably NBFC should work on. We of course talk of health and education somehow is not considered as a business activity which will give you money back. And of course, it is expected. I mean, we can't expect that some private company is going to open a huge number of schools and then they are going to make money out of that and repay you. Well, that might not happen. But many new tools are coming from international community, from World Bank, from IMF, from ADB, from the Asian Infrastructure Investment corporations, which are talking of blended finance and thus potential of using private finance and maybe a banking system or maybe the multilateral systems, maybe the improvement infrastructure investment trust which are coming. There's such new models are coming up with great speed, and we do hope that this investment gap that we see in Indian context or maybe even in global context, we always feel that Indian fintech, Indian NBFCs should become global. And if there are any limitations, I'm sure people will try to resolve it. We had opportunity to visit Cairo last week, 2 weeks back, and we see the acceptance to Indian industry is much better than the other countries that you can think of. So I'm sure that we need to acknowledge that India has acceptability outside, and please don't constrain yourself by working only in India. You ought to think of South Asia. You ought to think of Central Asia, you ought to think of ASEAN, you ought to think of Africa, you ought to think of Latin America. Then whenever you are doing business, it's not a pipe dream, it's not something big talks. These things are happening, only we have to be, shall we say, committed enough to achieve excellence in whichever sector we are working. So again, maybe we spoke of microfinance, agriculture finance is a big thing. Probably that's a sector that we should be working on. And of course, the private partnership of public-private partnership is not nothing new, it's old. But there is some mental barrier I feel within the banking, the NBFC community. some mental barrier probably which needs to be broken, which needs to be supported, which probably needs to be, the anxiety probably will have to be removed by whatever means. That working in public sector, it is not only government, or shall we say social sector, is a sound and sane business opportunity which needs to be worked upon. And if you feel there are any limitations to that, any barriers, any bottlenecks, I'm sure the system is strong enough, resilient enough, adaptive enough to find out ways that will make you work towards this SDGs. So probably I have finished my 13 minutes. So thank you, Raviji. Thanks a lot, Elette, for taking this effort of getting people together. I always feel that such events is just not conference party. It is a great festival of ideas. We come together and there are many unexplored opportunities that I feel can be used. So I'll be here, of course. I don't expect any questions, but if anyone wants to connect, I'll be here for another half an hour. So thanks a lot. Thank you very much.